Good morning, everybody. Welcome to podcast episode number 15 of the 5-Year Real Estate Career. We're going to do something a little bit different this week. Today is going to be part one of a two-part podcast. And today's topic is going to be conducting webinars that actually work. And what do we mean by work? That put money into your pocket, that are successful putting butts in seats, getting customers and selling them or helping them buy or sell homes. Today's part one of part two. Next week, we're going to talk about the results of a webinar that we're doing in between today's podcast and next week's podcast. So real-time stuff. My name's Patrick Butler, and we always start off our podcast with imagine, if you will, starting a real estate career that in 5 short years can enable you to live abundantly with the income that you desire, doing the things you want to do, including continuing to work if you want to. And we always say that sounds like hype, but it's real. Well, it is real. I've got one quick announcement to make. Of our 3-legged stool that we have, which is first-time home buyers, new construction, working with investors and being an investor, and affinity marketing, one of our companies, One Point Solutions, just landed a fairly sizable relocation account last week. It's United Auto Workers, General Motors, UAW-GM. They moved 1,400 people last quarter alone. So that's about 5,000 people a year that they move with lump sum reloads. So everybody that's part of this group and certainly part of our One Point Solutions team will be eligible for any of these referrals, buyers and sellers, as they come along. So this stuff works, ladies and gentlemen. It's part of what we do and part of what we do with you. So,
and high five, Patrick. That was great news.
Wasn't that amazing news, everybody? That's fantastic. So welcome to this podcast, a virtual seminar in every episode. So we're going to talk about webinars in this episode, and some things that we want to think about is, you might ask yourself, why should I do webinars? Is there a reason for it? Is it just something else like working for sale by owners or expired listings? Do I throw it into the bag of tricks? Well, we're going to talk about exactly why and what the real value is with some real success stories. These are low cost, folks. Think about it. We're in a very tenuous environment economically, whether it's inflation, high interest rates. So we've got to preserve our money, but low cost, exclusive leads, unlike a Zillow lead or a Redfin that you churn up for yourself, by yourself, or with our team doing it for you, that you get to work exclusively. No competition on these leads. And how to run high-powered webinar campaigns. It's not just as simple as throwing something out there on Facebook, but close. And we'll show you how to do that. We'll talk about some of these things as well as future opportunities. And what I hear from everybody, Patrick, I'm not an outgoing person. I'm not really good at doing webinars or speaking in front of a camera. Otherwise designed as I think I suck when I talk to people on camera. Well, that's okay. We're going to share with you some things to do there, whether it's assisting you with getting better at that, or again, having a team that does it and you can be spotlighted and don't have to run the entire show. That's kind of what we're looking for, isn't it? Some way to generate business. So we're going to dispense with our introductions, but thank you both Skip Wiley and Eric Wilner for being part of our podcast team. Let's go ahead and get this show on the road. So, gentlemen, the first question out of the box is, well, why should I do webinars? I can do cold calling. I can work with my fair weathered friends at the Chamber of Commerce. Why would you do a webinar? Skip, why would you do a webinar?
Well, I like numbers. And the most important reason for me to do a webinar is, well, there's actually 3 reasons why I believe in the strength of webinars. Number 1, trust and confidence. 9 out of 10 people that come to a webinar believe that the speaker, if the meeting is high powered, if it's informative, if they accomplish their goal, they immediately develop trust and confidence in the webinar speaker and will take his advice. Second reason is numbers. I can do one-on-one presentations until I'm 100 years old and speak to far less people. By the way, that's not right around the corner, the 100. I still have a few years left. And what I love about webinars is I can be me. I don't have to be anybody but me. I know my strengths. I know my flaws. People learn who you are when you do a quality webinar. So that's me. What about you, Eric?
Well, I think, in what you said, number 1 is that the numbers, right? If imagine that it takes about, let's just use an example, an hour to explain and really describe, what your product is and, to kind of develop that trust and be able to, demonstrate. When you say, okay, I can be me, I get to demonstrate who I am and what I know. So that's a really good thing. Number two is that when you're saying the numbers, imagine if it took me an hour to do that each time and I work an 8-hour day, that means I can only see 8 people. Well, Skip and I do a workshop that you mentioned, Patrick, that every week in 1 hour, we'll see, anywhere between, 15 to 30 people. So the leverage, to be able to leverage your time is very important, which, by the way, again, elevates your credibility because people understand that your time is worth more when more people come to see you do what you do.
Yep. And I'm going to add something to that as well. And you really hit on something important. As we get busier in the real estate business and see more people, unfortunately, what ends up happening is we ourselves get tired of saying the same thing over and over. The poor new customer number 121 gets a 10-minute version of the hour's worth of content they really should be getting because we're tired of talking about it. And that's unfair. And by the way, that's bad business. And that's what ends up happening to businesses that fail. They stop doing what they did initially that made them so successful, working with educated consumers. So the webinar allows us to do all those things, one-to-many relationship, get the word out. And by the way, there's nothing more exciting than the back and forth that goes on between attendees, whether it's through chat or if you are crazy enough to let them talk on the webinar. But there's also that herd mentality, and people will say, hey, I had the same question that they have, and that makes sense to me. And I used to do these things as live seminars. And the other thing I like about webinars is the efficiency of them. Gone are the days of packing your SUV with a computer, a projector, a screen, sandwiches, drinks, ice, driving 35 miles to the local hospital to do a seminar that you're hoping more than 10 people show up for, and then delivering the opportunity and packing everything up and going. That takes 3 or 4 hours out of your day. A webinar, if you're prepared, is only the hour that you're doing your thing plus the follow-up and doing the business.
There's no commute time. Here I am on my little sun porch doing my webinar.
Absolutely.
And it's funny, because even the radio show that I do, I used to have to drive, half an hour to the radio station, do the setup, do the show. It was a 2, 3, 4 hour chunk of my day that was gone. Today, you show up right on time, you give what you do. And that goes to something, it's funny. We think that because we heard our presentation 3, 4, 5, 10 times, that everybody else did also. And like you said, you're shortchanging that new person, number one. Number two is that you don't get the fatigue, because if the message worked, and a lot of the workshops that we do, we repeat those workshops. The reason that we repeat those workshops is because they work, right? We already have the scripting, the sequence, the message down. And then so on the tails of that, think about this. In today's new world of, microwave message and everything, we are tasked with creating content, right? And here's a way for us to create content, accumulate that content, and then we can talk a little bit more about making it become evergreen.
That's
And
right.
I'd
And,
like to add
Skip, some of the
something.
things that oh, sorry, Skip, go ahead.
I think it's really critical to talk about the next step. You have to have the right platform. You could do webinars all day long. What's the single biggest challenge that real estate agents have? Once they connect with a customer, it's the intense follow-up that becomes a critical part of whether that contact, that prospect, the lead actually becomes a buyer. And what the right technology platform, the right webinars program will allow that customer to attend that webinar. Even if they register for it and miss it, the technology will invite them to the next webinar, to the next webinar.
Yep.
And if they attended it, the follow-up messages that reconnect them to us on a regular basis are a critical component of doing webinars. Without a good platform, most people fail at webinars because of the necessity to follow up on a regular, consistent basis with the right follow-up messages.
Yeah, that's a good point because, to your point, depending on what your topic is, and by the way, it's not just first-time home buyers. There's selling your home, whether you want to sell as a for sale by owner or selling in a changing market or dealing with the new NAR landscape. The beauty of webinars is they can be very topical and very timely. For example, right after the holiday seasons, you take your local mortgage guy and you talk about refinancing strategies or home equity lines to pay off your 30% credit card debt and put it in with a 6%, 7% mortgage HELOC to pay those deals off. You get the right audience, but sometimes people aren't ready immediately, even if the topic interests them. So you get 30 people in a room or in a webinar, and 3 of them buy soon within the next week. That's amazing, right? The other 27, to Skip's point, should be nurtured though, because there's a reason why they're not ready to go today. And some may never buy, and that's okay. I will tell you, as a brand new real estate agent, I made the mistake many times of taking an unqualified buyer, because back then, you didn't even bother with it, right? You just took them out. And then showing them homes that they weren't ready to buy right now anyway. In fact, I had the one lady ask me to take her to Publix because I knew she had to go grocery shop. But this is so much more refined, right? And so you can get the low-hanging fruit, those folks that are ready to go. And let's talk a little bit about the cost, guys. I mean, direct mail campaigns, if you're doing that, postage just went up again, I think. What is it now to mail a letter? 50 cents, 60 cents, $1? I don't know.
Yeah, it's more than 50.
Yeah, it's a lot of money. So, and you're just hitting a small number of people, but the marketing and the cost of doing these. So if you've already got your Zoom account set up, doesn't cost you any more to use it 1,000 times than it does one time. Let's talk a little bit about some of the marketing. I know, gentlemen, you guys do a pretty nifty thing. And again, we'll do it for you too, folks, if you're interested, but talk a little bit about that.
I'm going to talk about 2 things in one. Let's say I suck as a speaker. I'm afraid of being on camera. As most of you know, I'm real. I screw up, but I'm the same way in person as I am on camera. So the reality is people are afraid of doing webinars because they think they're going to not do it very well. Well, if you're not a great speaker, who cares? You're authentic. Not everybody's going to love me. Not everybody's going to hate me. But the cost associated with doing this, is peanuts. I was reading an article early this morning about top producers. Top producers spend 13% of their income, 13% of their income annually. They budget for it, by the way, in advance of the year. They budget 13% of their projected income for advertising, marketing, and lead generation. So if we talk about numbers, there are actually ways that you can run webinars without any money out of your pocket. But in general, if you're willing to spend a couple $100 a month on a webinar that you run every 20 days, and you pick the topic, you mentioned, Patrick, that there are many topics. Well, first-time real estate investor, first-time home buyer, new construction. There's a huge marketplace for all of those. And so spending a couple $100 a month to go after customers. Next week, when we talk about part 2, we're going to break that number down so that you can see how little you spend and how many leads you can generate. So a couple $100 a month is my.
Go ahead, Eric.
I was just going to jump in since Skip was talking, because I've watched Skip over the years. When we talk about costs, Skip has an incredible ability to not even spend any money, right? And even though he's doing the marketing, and that's why, one of the things you want to work with a team, right? And for example, if you're a real estate person and you're, needless to say, you need a mortgage person that you want to team up with, you need a title company that you want to team up with, you're probably going to deal with an insurance. All of those people you're going to talk to before you even close the property. Well, they have the exact same goal that you do, and that is to capture a great client. So why not team up and pool? You can be the quarterback, and the other people can participate by contributing to whatever costs that are minimal anyway. But now you can bootstrap your way, and that's one thing. Number 2, if you think And, I don't think you suck, Skip, but, and a lot of times people think that they suck more than they really do, right? Because we are our own worst critic, right? And so, but even if you still believe that, then take one of your team members, have them be the front facing individual. Maybe one of them speaks better. Let it happen. But the bottom line is do it.
Yep. And I'm glad we hit that, because I know I kind of passed over that, but the team is mission critical, folks. And as a real estate professional, what I love about especially the buyer webinars, the first real person that's going to be interacting with the buyer is the lender, right? So you're there, you're teeing up the customers, they're going to go first. So you're already creating the stickiness and the relationship. And it's vital that that team is displayed as such, right? And even in our affinity marketing program, we talk about that all the time. Your software that you're using or whatever should market the entire process: real estate, mortgage, insurance, et cetera. And Eric, you nailed it. I mean, you may have somebody that's a superstar on stage or on camera. They may love hosting those things, and you can always be the real estate expert, because what folks are looking for, and I've learned this from many podcasts today, and it's true, is authenticity. They don't want a polished Hollywood production that's like a commercial message. They want to hear from the real people, and you don't have to be an orator to do that. You can just be yourself, as Skip pointed out. So that's vital. And yes, from the underwriting standpoint as well. So if there are any marketing expenses, social media, and those kind of things that are out of pocket, I think we've already talked about that. Let's engage our team. But one of the beautiful things about some of these programs, and particularly if you want us to work with you, is part of the way to fund these things is after the sale takes place, right? So you're not coming out of pocket and having to budget money, but it's a portion of transaction. So, there are lots of cool models. And again, we would encourage anybody that's interested in this, and we do it with our affinity program as well as webinars. We can run them for you. It's your customers. We deliver to your audience, and then you get the transactions. And in some of those cases, if we structure the deal, we can earn a piece at the end. And Skip, I don't know if you wanted to talk about that or save that for a future podcast.
I think we'll save it for a future podcast, but let me just say this. If any of you on this call are seriously interested in doing 12 closings in your first year, in my humble opinion, the fastest, best, most efficient way to do it is with a team, an experienced team, and hold webinars. We have people on this call, Elvira, who speaks another language. That you would have to do that webinar with somebody. A portion of your webinar might be in one of your native languages, but there are people out there that are listening. YouTube has become the best source of education for most of us. And the reality of a webinar, that's one more way to educate the consumer. And so I truly believe that the fastest, easiest strategy, and speaking of strategy, this is my son, everyone, the love of my life.
Hey, Christian.
Say goodbye to everybody.
Bye-bye.
I love working out of my home. How about you guys? You like working out of your house?
I do, but I do miss the interaction of an office environment.
Yeah, I understand. I don't. But the reality is that webinars provide us with a very powerful tool that will enable anybody that's on this particular call today to be able to do 12 closings in the next 12 months if you develop a serious mindset and game plan to do it. Eric, you've been doing a radio show for how many years? Most of your business,
25
years. The business that you generate comes from where?
A lot of it comes from that. It's that consistency and just the audience that it's built up over the years.
So with that being said, over 25 years, it's amazing you still have something to talk about, right? But the good news is real estate is ever changing. So much like a newscast, right? That the news, although it seems the same every day, cycles. As things change, they report different things. Maybe the news is a bad example, but in real estate and home ownership, there are a variety of seminar topics. And Eric, you mentioned something that I think we glossed over. And Skip, you've always said as part of these calls, one thing that we need to do to be relevant in today's world is to have videos of ourselves and to have the videos of topics that people would be interested in? Well, this is a great way to accomplish both of those, right? You can be part of a webinar, deliver the content, and then take that thing and make it evergreen, as Eric pointed out. Put it on your personal website, use it in social media marketing, leverage that content to work with other people. It's there forever and you can use it always. So let's talk about a couple of different topics. And as you think about them, the opportunities that can come from them. So we all know the first time home buyer webinar. That's classic. And I will tell you, in Southeast Florida, I would be hesitant to do one of those because we don't really have a great outlet, ironically, for first-time home buyers. So this is a very high-cost market. But what we do have a lot of is home equity in the South Florida marketplace. So I would lean towards other webinars that deal with homeowners that have houses to possibly sell. So whether you want to sell for sale by owner, all the pros and cons to doing that is a great webinar topic. Selling your home in a changing market. I will tell you, people are very eager to hear about that, as well as, some of the things that are going on with how the cost of doing real estate changes. What are some other topics that you guys have thought about and or are considering doing?
My favorite has always been investors, right? I love working with investors. They're more professional. They're consistent, right? The average homeowner buys a house once every 7 years. And so you got to nurture them for 7 years. The average investor, he might buy several houses in 1 year or at least annually. And so it's, there's another reason. And webinars are excellent for attracting investors, and investors are frequently looking for more good content and good webinars. So it's a mutual attraction.
Yep. And I'll tell you, there's something I'm working on right now. So as you all may know, I do a lot of stuff with bankruptcy, and that's coming back big as well. So in addition to affinity marketing, one of the big issues that we've always dealt with in the bankruptcy space when it comes to having a homeowner sell their property. Now, bear in mind, this could be a homeowner who's facing foreclosure, going to lose their house. They would love to sell, especially if they have equity. Big question they ask is, where will I go if I sell? So imagine a program that would allow an investor, Eric, to come in and take that property out for a fraction of its cost, take the deed to the property, lease it back to the consumer over a period of 3 years with their option to buy it back out, not at market value, but at the acquisition price plus a few costs and fees. What an amazing program. And we've got a couple of lenders that are ready to deploy something that will do this. That's a seminar I would do all day long to people that either are in or maybe facing foreclosure and in bankruptcy. What a tremendous topic. And talk about immediate opportunities to list properties, man. They will come out of the woodwork. You can put them into your triage and qualify them and let them go.
Patrick, there are probably 24 bankruptcy attorneys in South Florida that would love to partner with you on that particular
Let me
webinar.
tell you, there are thousands of bankruptcy attorneys in Florida. There are, and having run the numbers back in the day in South Florida, just prior to COVID, there were over 20,000 properties in bankruptcy in Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach County. 20,000. And they were represented by a cadre of different attorneys. But to your point, Skip, there are probably a couple dozen of the biggest bankruptcy attorneys, right, that have massive numbers of units. I don't want to digress on this, but yeah, those would be the ones that you'd want to pinpoint. And again, we can coach you with this stuff to go to and say, look, I've got a great seminar that can help you double dip on your clients. Not only will you earn their bankruptcy filing fee, but the bank will pay you a fee to assist in getting them out of the foreclosure. Everybody wins. So we could go on and on forever, but think about it, folks. What are some topics that might be relevant in your marketplace? Even a new development that's going up in your backyard, a condo or whatever. Great topic for a webinar. Bring the developer in, have them talk about it. They can probably provide some special incentives for people on your webinar, and away they go. Skip, I know that's hot in your marketplace.
Yeah, well, let me just tell you, yesterday I went to the printer for our meeting. This is a 2-part meeting, everybody. You have to be on our next call, because we're going to break it down so that we're going to cover each of the pieces so that you have no fear associated with running with a webinar series. And Patrick and I were talking about it early this morning, but yesterday I was casually at a printer and I noticed the person next to me had a flyer that said Miranda Homes. Miranda is a very big regional builder. So I turned to her and I said, how's it going? And she said, well, it's going pretty well, but it's slowed down a little bit as rates have started to risen. Folks, this particular developer is a seminar that we are going to do together. I said to her, hey, listen, would you be open to doing a webinar with me promoting Miranda Homes and splitting the cost? The answer was immediate, yes. And so you can find new construction. My niche up here is first-time home buyer and new construction. There are close to 40 new construction projects here. So a webinar on new construction. By the way, in South Florida, there are some new projects being developed. I noticed the other day there were, because I still get all the news from South Florida, there are 3 new projects that are being developed in South Florida. There are many in Port St. Lucie. You can do a webinar promoting new construction anywhere in the country, and you will get people on that webinar if you promote it properly.
That's a fact. So you just segued into our next and final piece. Webinars are great, but how do you get people to show up to them? So building an audience. And I'll start off. I mean, if anybody has any social media accounts, whether it's Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, great places to throw that information out there. And what we're going to show you next week is exactly what we use to get people to register. It's very simple. It's a little link. They click it, it goes into the thing, and the whole process starts. We're going to talk about that, but social media is definitely one of them. What are some other groups that we don't have to spend money on, Skip and Eric, that we can reach out to build bodies and seats?
How about the contacts you already know? You know, who you know and who they know is just, an untapped marketplace. So look at your sphere of influence, invite people to come and quote unquote critique, your workshop, because they'll say, you know what, that was really good. You should invite my friend Paul, and so forth. That's one way.
Yep, right on. In fact, Eric, you nailed it. I think when we had Tracy on a couple of weeks ago, she said, we do a terrible job typically of marketing ourselves to our sphere of influence, right? And on some other webinar, I heard somebody say, and we call them other ones past customers or past clients. He goes, doctors don't call their patients past patients unless they've died. They're patients. You may not have seen them for a couple of years, but they're your patients. And so that's super important. But Eric, you really hit something important as well. And Tracy said, put them on a real estate drip campaign to find out about properties in their area. That's good. But imagine reaching out to your sphere saying, hey, I am hosting another educational on this, that, or the other thing. You are subliminally marketing your services to your sphere of influence without asking them to buy or sell a house, but you're planting that seed over and over and over again and displaying that you're active in the business, doing things, in fact, even imparting change where it may be needed as a leader in this business. And that's super powerful. I would be remiss if I didn't say employers and membership groups. So if you're going vertical at all, folks, and you've got any affinity groups, what a phenomenal audience. Reach out to those HR directors or the owners of the companies. Have them invite all their employees, because if you did your job right there, they know the value of helping their employees or their members save money and time and make good, sound real estate decisions when they're ready. Otherwise, we're just spinning our wheels. There are myriad other ways. Any other groups or?
Yeah, there's a growing group right now in South Florida, and it's all the condominium associations, because right now condos have some very serious problems. Mm-hmm. They have problems with assessments. They have problems with insurance, and that would be an awesome webinar. It would also be an awesome meeting for Eric to do on one of his radio shows, because right now there are some major issues. Property values are falling on many of the condominiums. Solutions to maximize your profit in a condominium sale might be a good webinar for us to do.
That's right on. And Skip, you also talked about insurance. I don't know about the rest of Florida, but South Florida insurance rates have gone up dramatically as well. So those are things that people are interested in hearing about. And I will tell you, one of my best seminars I ever did live was Insurance 101. It was right after Hurricane Wilma hit, 2005. And I was doing some work with a law firm that basically did the claims, right? There's another term for that I'm looking for, but an adjuster, right? That sometimes, in fact, 99% of the time, the insurance company will offer you way less than you statutorily are entitled to. And if you accept it, you're done. And we go through a whole series of exercises there where we show how a simple roof leak could result in a full roof replacement, but you'll probably not ever know that. And great topics, timely, everybody was into it. And again, hundreds of people at a time into those rooms. So, it's the beauty of webinars. You can be very spontaneous and pivot on a dime. All right, folks.
And,
well, we are
the
at the
last
end
thing,
of our
as
time, but
we
Eric, go
wrap
ahead.
it up,
Yes, sir.
the last thing as we wrap it up, my favorite subject, investors, right? They have meetups and they have association meetings and so forth. And so it's a great way to, accumulate lists of names to announce publicly, hey, I'm doing a free workshop for this or whatever the case may be. And the other thing, what do you love to do, right? Are you a member of any group or association? Do you, I'm a scuba diver, so a lot of your lifestyle things, Skip is, an avid dancer. And so he has a network of people that he loves, that I love, and everybody has something. And what's more fun than interweaving? There are people, in my area that specialize in boating properties. There's people who specialize in equestrian properties.
Yep.
So there's another way to build an audience very, very quickly.
Absolutely.
Work with the people you know and love. Hey, the thing that I hope everybody realizes is today was like appetizer. The second part of this presentation is the main course. So next week, when you come back, we're going to lay out a comprehensive plan that anyone can implement. So don't miss next week's call. If you have somebody that you think would benefit from learning how to close 12 transactions in the next 12 months using a strategy called webinars, invite them to our call. It's going to be powerful. You're going to walk away with a specific game plan that will be easy to implement immediately.
Right on.
Huge.
Well, huge. Well, Eric and Skip, and of course, I'm Patrick. Thank you for your time, and for our audience that's here and also going to be watching on the recording. Thank you for being here. Thanks for joining us for our 5-Year Real Estate Career Podcast, a virtual seminar in every episode. And again, as always, don't just be entertained by our beautiful faces and wonderful voices, but utilize what you can from these programs. And if you have any questions, reach out to us. We're here to help. We've never asked anybody for a penny yet. And we're here to help. That's what we're here for. We're both, all three of us, getting older. We want to impart the knowledge that we've gained before we forget about it. So until next time, keep it real, be relevant, keep moving. Even if you're on the right track, if you're not moving, you're going to get run over by a train. And we'll talk to you next time. We're going to go ahead and kill this recording now, everybody, and stay on the line for those that are still with us.
Goodbye.